Yeah, well, good day. Welcome, everybody. A special good day to Jose. Thank you for coming back this week. The topic today is patience is a virtue, and we actually have two things. We got patience and virtue. But it came to me that way. Patience is a virtue. And we might as well just keep going. Welcome, everybody, to Roundtable. This week on the table, we have Sharon, Donny, Jules, Polly, and Mahliah. Thank you for joining us. Connie, are you going to jump in? No, if you can, if you want. And this week's...
I will. If I have something to say, I'll jump in.
Good. This week's topic...
Hey, Connie.
Patience is a virtue. So, g'day everyone. We've all been yarning for the last 10 minutes anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, what makes patience a virtue? Why is patience like a bucket with a hole in it? Can we actually collect it and store it? If so, how, and how do we spend it? What makes a person patient? Other words that are virtuous, and why is patience virtuous more than anything else we say? What else have we got for today? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And when actually do we need patience? Is it all the time? Is it only sometimes? Or is it underlining, walking with us in life? So there's some of the... Oh, and the other one was that the dictionary doesn't tell us exactly where the grey areas are between any of the words that we've been talking about. Even patience. It'll tell you what it is, but it won't tell you how it acts or what it feels like or how it moves. And I've noticed that. So there's some questions for you. Patience is a virtue. We'll go with patience first and then we'll start looking into virtues. So who wants to go first?
Okay, well, I would like to say that, for one, I'm like an unemployed doctor. I have no patience. And patience comes from repeated failure. If you have a repeated failure, no matter how many angles you attack that failure, if you are still able to get up and try again, then you have immaculate patience.
And so patience is getting up, keep getting the energy to keep
the
getting
patience is not necessarily needing an answer right away. You can try something and you cannot get a result. But if you have patience, you can wait for that result.
Okay, so patience is waiting for time.
Yeah,
to move
patience is basically a way to manipulate time. Yeah, that's
straight into the pool today.
Oh, it's cold.
It is a little bit. It might be the virtue.
Yeah, the best way to do it is just to jump right in.
Yeah, some of us do that. Some people approach it slowly. Some stand there and look for a while, and other people just go, "Look out the way! Here I come!" Bang, in I go.
Yeah, I have no patience.
So where did it go? When we lose our patience, where does it go? It must go somewhere because we can get it back later, or someone else can get it.
That's right. Yeah, where does it go?
I think patience. Yeah, I think it's a skill set. I mean, I see patience as a learned skill. Some people may be born with it. I'm not sure I was at all. So it's a skill I've had to work on and perfect. I'm still working on that. And I find that, especially in this last 18 months, 2 years time frame, this has been an opportunity to learn. And I was listening to Dark Journalist today, and he said something pretty profound, which I think kind of goes with patience. Because one of the woman that he does his YouTubes with, which I can't remember her name offhand, She was talking about something about losing patience or whatever. And I know, she said, I feel powerless. And he said, there's always an opportunity to grow spiritually. And we are in one of those times where it may look like the other side has all the power, but the power we have is opportunity to grow. And somehow I feel like patience is a part of that recipe.
I agree with you 100% there, Sharon, because I would argue that patience is a necessary ingredient for trust.
I never thought of that. People consider me a pretty patient person, but I know when I'm not patient and it disappears, and that's why I presented these questions, because as everyone knows, I had a half dozen kids, and you need a lot of patience. And if you didn't have it, I learned it. Where I didn't have it, I learned it. And I learned to sit and watch that wave of time move across you. But when I have no patience left and I get all irate and out of control, I don't know where it goes. Does it come out of me? Does it get pushed inside me further?
One of the things that's kind of ironic about patience is that it seems to take people too long to learn it.
You have to be patient.
Exactly.
You need patience and patience.
I think sometimes it's good to lose your patience. I think sometimes you need to take action. And like you said, like we were talking in the beginning of the show, in Australia, the saying is, don't make me get out of my chair. Well, at that point, you could almost say that the person said that because they had lost their patience. It's like, okay, enough's enough, right? And I think sometimes, anger and our temper, if we have some control over it, there are times when we need to lose it, when we need to get up and get out and make our point and stand our ground. And so I think that's all part of that skill set of spiritual growth.
Well, yeah, because the part of that skill set is revealing to other people why they should be patient.
Right. Timing.
It's like a two-way street. Like patience is something that needs to be recognized before it's needed, and it's also something to be recognized before it's utilized.
Is that silence of truth?
Yes.
Well, for one thing, patience can be a tool to realize truth, because you can jump to conclusions, or you can be patient and watch the truth unfold.
So patience would bring wisdom in that case.
It would definitely seem to be some kind of prerequisite, yes.
Yes. So I'm starting to see that the relationship between other things and patience is, I didn't know patience was like the fabric that kept everything together here. That's what I'm saying.
It's almost as if patience is like the water that provides growth for wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Like if wisdom was a plant and you watered it to get it growing, patience is the water.
Yep.
You know, my friend both of us would like to move because for our own reasons. She's my neighbor. And she said something really profound. She said she feels like she's a surfer sitting on a surfboard and she's waiting for the wave. And until the wave comes, it's not time to get on the surfboard. And so that takes a lot of patience. I'm sure if you're a surfer, part of your skill is to be patient for that wave that you know. Right? I think so too.
To me,
And
that analogy is so not perfect, but it's like one of the most accurate ways that you can describe how to use patience as an ally, instead of saying that patience is just, oh, you're just waiting around to see what's going to happen. But if you look at what's happening, and if you're able to project what's going to happen, then your patience becomes an ally.
I think that this whole COVID thing has been an opportunity for many of us to work on skills that maybe needed some strengthening.
You're right. Yeah,
And
totally.
because we kind of have an idea of what's probably coming. And
Well, everything that I've predicted in the last 2 years has come true.
There you go.
That being said, my level of patience is wearing thin.
I heard that before.
Like,
You know what? I think this week
patience
has
is there,
been.
but then it can be worn thin. It's almost like a timing belt that wears out in an engine after a while. Like, patience is there, but then the more you spin it around, it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner.
Right.
And when do you draw the line for when patience becomes a detriment? Like, when do you say enough is enough and you throw your patience out the window and act?
When the straw breaks the camel's back, that's
Yeah.
when you know it's time to choose.
Exactly. So where is patience there? When the straw breaks the camel's back, where is patience? Because
It
most
didn't
of the
go
time,
away.
a straw
Ollie,
that
it
breaks
didn't.
the camel's back usually results in some kind of drastic action or shift in consciousness. And where is it that patience is no longer effective? Where is it
But
that patience becomes some kind of detriment, where it's just prolonging the inevitable decision that you've already made, but patience prohibits you from implementing it?
it's like using a fork or a spoon. It's not about the fork or the spoon being better. It's choosing your instrument. It's choosing where you wish to stand. If you have ever seen a straw break the camel's back, you're standing at a moment in time where you're no longer bound by patience or by the straw breaking the camel's back. You are now choosing. You're free to choose. Do I use the fork or do I use the spoon?
Is that when
Well,
your patience runs out?
There's no such thing as your patience ran out. There's you making a
well,
different decision.
my patience has run out. When people start coming at me and getting in my physical space to make me let them put that thing on my forehead or whatever it is they is part of their routine. Sorry, you get my wrist, not my forehead. Sorry, that doesn't work that way. Well, you either get my wrist or you get nothing. And to me, that's not impatient. It's just standing my ground. When you start mushing into my space and telling me you need my fluids or you want to swab this or that, no, period.
So you're saying patience should be null and void when it includes something questionable like your rights. You're saying that patience should be something that you should be able to take away or give at will based on the situation.
I'm seeing it like this. Patience is there, and it's there to like check your emotions so you don't go overboard. But when a situation arises where you need to act, patience seems to step aside and say, "Go get them."
My adrenaline
Yes.
takes
Well,
over.
right. Well said. Well said, Connie and Luna.
When I
Exactly.
feel
It's
attacked, I'm sorry, I am going to defend myself.
right.
Period. Whether I'm 4'11" or 6'5", I will defend myself. Period. Loudly.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yes,
Because
as I
I'm looking at this, I hear what you're saying, and as a martial artist and a lover of animals, I'm seeing those things in that realm, but different. In martial arts, right, you're ready to defend yourself. But even then, you need to be patient because you have to determine what move they're on so you can defend yourself accurately. Not only that, you got to move around and pick your best strike and be patient with what's happening. So it's like another level of patience once you've decided to take action and defend yourself. It's like everything slows down and patience actually comes into reality.
It's a virtue.
Patience becomes a virtue. Talking about that, I'll just read you what it says about that. Virtue, behaviour showing high moral standards. In traditional Christian and angelology, the seventh highest order of the ninefold celestial hierarchy. So patience has a crown. Virtue gave it a crown. High moral standards. So that's what it says in the dictionary about virtue, and with patience and virtue are obviously tied together.
To me, it seems like patience would be a tool as long as the individual wielding that tool was willing to accept the fact that patience can teach them something. Otherwise, patience could be detrimental to somebody who doesn't know what the effect of patience has on their their life, their interactions with reality.
Because lack of patience, short fuse.
Well, here's the thing, because some people view patience as a virtue, and I agree with those views. Patience is a virtue, but at the other end of patience, if somebody who is well versed in, let's say, the art of patience, they could use that in a detrimental way to manipulate people, basically to do what they will, or to do what. I mean, I don't know. What I'm saying is that patience is not. It's not impervious to manipulation. Patience can be manipulated, and I think we can see that in all kinds of areas of the society that we live in currently.
Absolutely.
The less patience you have, the less likely you are to be able to navigate. They're making it more so every single day. So patience can be definitely not only a form of armor, but a tool that can be used to, like, if you can portray patience, then you can extract more information out of situations, in my opinion.
Can I ask you, Polly, could you please give an example of it being negative on you, like from the powers that be? Can you please give me an example of that?
Okay, so how patience has been used negatively from the powers that be towards me, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna admit right off the bat, it's gonna be different anyways because I don't have an amalgamous view. But the way that it's impacted me is that you can have patience up to a certain point, and then there's that point where patience becomes tolerance. And what I want to actually point out here is that there isn't really a clear definition or line drawn between patience and tolerance, which I think needs to be drawn because there might be subtle difference here in regards to patience versus tolerance. So patience is something that you would learn naturally through circumstances that happen naturally throughout everyday occurrences in life. Whereas tolerances would be viewed, at least in my opinion, as something that you need to be patient with because of another outside influence. So your tolerance can be like Okay, here's an example. If somebody is using cannabis pain relief and their tolerance is too high, they would have to use patience in reducing the intake of said medicine to be able to get anything out of it. So the patience is waiting for the tolerance to die down, if that makes any sense.
To me,
What comes to my mind in for tolerance is, especially in the negative way, is there are times when I will use patience to tolerate a situation which I realize I'm not going to be able to participate in for a very long time. Because I'm either going to lose my temper, or especially if it's making me uncomfortable and it's putting me in a place I don't want to be. So again, it depends on the game. So, I look at life sometimes as a great big giant game, and so I pull out all the tools I have, but I don't like being in a position of tolerance. And I'm talking more the emotional one, not tolerance as of drugs
Hear ya.
or yeah. So if I so I can see what you're saying, and I think with the powers that be, I feel like right now I'm tolerating a lot of their crap, and I'm choosing patience because that's what Creator is asking me to do right now.
Yeah, so it's almost like patience is a coping mechanism for tolerance.
Yes, for now.
Yeah, and for obviously specific examples.
But which is probably going to actually benefit me in the long run. So in this case, it's going to be a benefit. Like, in other words, for me to get in the street and start freaking out that all this crap is going on, or not throwing rotten bananas and tomatoes at Mussolini, who just won, quote unquote, the stuff like that, isn't really going to assist me to not be a jerk out there. So I'm tolerating the Nese, as I call him.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. You're right. But it's the patience that allows you to see what it is that's the benefit of that tolerance.
Exactly.
Yes. So there's it's intrinsically tied. Those two words, they don't rhyme with each other for no reason.
Luckily, not everything feels like it's tolerate. You have to tolerate it. If I think the higher spiritual thing, if you can get to a point where you're not feeling like you're tolerating something, that you are just being patient, it's a much more comfortable place to get to. And I think sometimes that's a spiritual journey you want to grab. In other words, looking at where we are, I'd rather feel like I'm being patient. I'm on that surfboard waiting for the wave, versus hanging onto the surfboard. I feel like I'm drowning and I just have to wait for the wave to take me in because I can't swim anymore.
Exactly.
There's a difference.
You just described the difference between tolerance and patience, but they're
Right.
both intrinsically tied and entangled.
But
And
maybe
if you don't know how to use one, you can't use the other, in my opinion.
Well, I'm thinking that maybe the spiritual growth is to always get to a point of higher feeling where you're not feeling like the victim.
tolerance to me is gritting your teeth and bearing it.
Exactly.
I'm not being patient. I am tolerating this because somehow it's going to benefit me, whether
Right.
it's at a grocery store or on an airplane. I had to wear a mask. I chose to wear it under my nose. If anyone noticed, I'd pull it up for a second and pull it right back down when I passed them. Like
Right.
that's tolerance. Patience is truly, for me, it's a development in my character that I lack. I'll just own it. I never had a lot of patience as a child. I threw tantrums. I'm not wired to tolerate for very long.
Well, can I jump in? I've been quiet.
Yeah.
Okay.
No jumping. It's dangerous.
Well, yeah. Okay. So one of the first questions, one of the questions I caught that Luna asked was, what makes patience a virtue? So I went and I looked up online and took some time to kind of review this a little bit. And I found a good definition I like. And it says, forbearance and endurance through moderation, resolving conflicts and injustice peacefully, as opposed to resorting to violence, accepting the grace to forgive, to show mercy to sinners, creating a sense of peaceful stability and community rather than suffering, hostility, and antagonism. So, Connie, that's why I said, wait, Connie, you're not being fair to yourself. Because in a proper look or proper eyesight or Googles or goggles into what we're looking at with patients, I think that you do have that. And what we might say is like a lack of patience when it comes to saying, okay, I'm just fed up with this. I think that's having the truth, having that inner thing within you that says, okay, I know this is not right, so I can't give this patience because it's not good. It's not benefiting anybody. It's not bringing life to the
Exactly,
situation.
Mahliah, I have a question. When does patience become enabling?
Well, patience is known as one of the 7 virtues, right?
Okay, but when do you cross the line from being patient
Right.
and understanding to enabling somebody to continue in their nonsense?
Yeah.
I don't think patient, I think, excuse me for jumping in, but I said before, when those actions need to be taken, it's like patience steps back and goes, you're in total right to be doing what you're doing. And I think patience and the others, there's a distance between them when you come to that kind of point.
I think patients can recognize that there's a level of tolerance that's capable of executing patience.
Yes.
Put it that way. Can I take just a moment to welcome Nese
Well,
into
yeah, totally.
Roundtable?
I think part of the can I answer really quickly? To Connie, the justice factor. The Libra has, to bring up Libra again, Libra has this sense within her that is constantly balancing everything. And what's the pros and the cons and the what benefits this and what, all the time we have to constantly be looking at where can I add and or take away from to balance out this situation and give more positivity when there's too much negativity. How to bring in the neutrality that Nese talks about, which I think is great. I think I really enjoy that Nese brings that up so much, that there is solidity in understanding the balance of positivity, negativity, and neutrality. But I think in the end, we have to really, really look at what point do we stop giving patience to a situation, basically, is what I'm understanding your question is, right, Connie?
Really is. And this is like trying to apply this to real life situations that I've lived through and am currently living through and struggling with balance of mercy and justice, balance of patience, and I'm done.
Yeah. Well, there goes I'm done again with the sickness. Like, if I can jump Jules in here, it's the I'm done in your mind, that it's like you have to come up with this understanding that says, hey, I'm done with this thing. Hi, Jules. You've been quiet too this whole time.
It's all good. I'm just enjoying the company.
Oh, good. But yeah,
I
I
would
think
say
it's a great question. Go ahead, Paul.
tolerance might be the level of measurement where patience is defined. So tolerance, let's say if your tolerance is high, then your patience is high in the same regard. But if your tolerance runs thin, then your patience in that same regard runs out. And so here I think we can find an intrinsic relationship between tolerance and patience, because patience is not necessarily all about tolerating.
No, I don't.
You
Yeah, you're
don't
right.
have to tolerate stuff and still can be patient, and a good outcome can happen.
Right.
But at the same time, you can be too patient and too tolerant, and shit will just keep fucking you over. Excuse my language.
Well, that's when boundaries come in, and again, I think boundaries are another skill set, and they're important to the beholder. Each of us has our own boundaries
So how
of
does
what we can.
boundaries relate to patience? Like how? Because I agree with what you're saying here, Sharon. But how do boundaries mold your patience then? Like because they do, right?
No, I don't. I don't think they mold it. In other words, again, for me, it's as simple. I always kind of reduce things to things that are simple because I can't understand complex things when I have to make decisions. Being a Libra, I have to have it kind of some clarity.
You don't
So
have to be a Libra to get that.
right, but I mean, again, it's like at this point, me being on the planet for as long as I have, I know pretty much me and how I think and what's okay and what's not. And I recognize when I'm getting to the end of the road of how long I'm going to put up with the situation. So if I have to keep putting up with it, then I have to take action. If it's coming to an end, then I have to figure out how to do it in a gracious way. And if it's a boundary, then I'm going to have to defend that in a gracious way as well.
Yes, if it's a boundary, this far, no further.
Exactly. And you have to figure out who are you defending your boundary to? Do you need to say anything? Do you just need to walk away?
So in a way, you're saying that patience dictates your tolerance over time.
Yeah, probably. Again,
Well,
I never think in any of these complex terms. Like when I speak to you, I always feel like I'm the dumbest person on the street because you add so much complexity. And my brain goes, what did he say? It's very brilliant, by the way, and I love it. But I reduce everything to such simplicity because otherwise I trip over my shoelaces.
Well, in response to that, which by the way is extremely flattering, I will say that I wouldn't be even asking any questions even close to this without having the minds that are here in the chat room in the first place. Because it's like I don't know if I want to call it a symbiotic relationship or anything like that, but it's the questions and things that people say here that make me ask questions that I wouldn't even be able to ask anywhere else. The only place I'd be able to ask them is here. And so this is why I love these discussions, especially about such rudimentary topics. Like really, really, if you, and especially because Sharon, you like to break things down until they're simple. Like we just talk about simple things, simple concepts. And to have a group of people that can talk about simple concepts and not be angry and still disagree even or augment would be a better way, which is, you know what, even more ironically, the word augment is kind of close to the word argument. So I'll just leave it at that.
So I think that as I grow and as I deal with different, and I guess what it comes down to is who am I dealing with? What's the situation? Why am I losing patience? Why do I feel like I have to have patience? You know, it's always kind of if we take what we're dealing with now without going into any of it too deeply, I feel kind of like something Luna said a long time ago that we may need to save our energy if things come knocking on our door. So like this weekend, today I went shopping and I don't put the mask on, but the store has the mask notice back up because Nese is back at it, right? So he's stepped up the game now where everybody's wearing masks again, and the words are highly recommended. So as far as I'm concerned, that means I don't have to, and so I'm not. But somebody mentioned this week, and I think Cliff I've been listening to Cliff and he was talking about patience, and he was talking about in the last couple of weeks, he is feeling like he is losing his patience with the situation, and he's starting to react. So this is a very timely conversation, I think, because we've been doing this crap for almost 2 frickin' years. Or feels like 2.
Didn't Biden just do that? Didn't he just say the same thing, that he was losing his patience?
Yes, exactly. He's using his patience for people who don't take the jib jab.
Yeah.
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 So if I may, and
hi, Nese.
Sure. Hi, Nese.
Everybody. So from my thoughts of tolerance is the ability when in a conversation or in a situation to deal with the situation when it's making you uncomfortable or it goes against your beliefs or your thoughts or your feelings. In mechanics, tolerance is like a gear that's spinning, and if it goes beyond its built design, then it can break. So I think as patience as the oil for the machine. So it's kind of like that tool utilized to put up with the stress that is occurring through the tolerance. And both have a level to one extent to the other, where your tolerance for certain things, like my example is I have no tolerance for lying, is my huge pinnacle of it, but I have patience for those that I know are just, for lack of labeling the behavior, liars, because that's what they do on a continuum, pathological liars, so I have a patience for them. But the challenge that I foresee is like a beach that is constantly shifting because of the beating on the waves. So does our proverbial line in the sand shift sometimes, because in my own experience, I've noticed many times when I would get involved with a partner that all of a sudden levels of patience and tolerance changes, especially when we think that there's going to be a mutual or at least beneficial outcome in the patience or the tolerance.
Well, I think it's really good to look at what the opposite of patience is, which, according to most sources, is sloth, to be lazy.
I would disagree with that. The opposite of patience.
I'm just going from most sources. I'm just going from most sources. What they say, the opposite of the virtue of patience is sloth. So I'm throwing it out there. What do you guys think? No?
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, right? I did too.
I would say maybe the opposite of patience is impatience.
Well, you gotta define impatience then. If you're just gonna put an "I am" in front of it, it just means the opposite of. So you still need a definition there.
Going back to the simplification of positive, neutral, and negative, patience would be right there in the center at neutral. Impatience would go into the red or the negativity, and patience as a virtue would go into the positivity, because we all know that the more patience that we put out there, it's easier to get along with people because
patience is more neutral than that, even in that you can wait and clearly gain more information and then make a more logical decision. So the longer you wait, the more patience you have, you can clearly make a more informed decision on anything. And most, most. When you get down to it, most of these things just get down to profit. So,
well, I think too,
patience,
though, is the key in that statement, Polly, is how much patience can you have in a situation? Where's that point where the line is that you can't anymore? You know, you've got to stop, because if you don't make a decision, we're gonna crash, right?
But patience is like an interest. It's like currency. It's like a safety blanket on interest. Patience.
It's an investment.
It will be. Yeah, it will be if
potentially.
If you're wrong, or if you're right, it's still an investment when you look back.
Yes, it is.
Can I jump in there? And while you're talking, all I can see is an animal hunting and sitting there really patient, waiting for their prey to come along when they don't know when, but when it does, they have to act. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, animals don't put emotions in their patience.
Yeah, that's just something they have to do.
They've got a different approach to patience than we have.
Like
the nature world.
Well, it's like playing chess too, in a sense, because you have to be patient and play the game in order to witness the other player make the mistake, and then you get to go in for the kill.
I like the instinct idea too, because that's going back to what we did in our last roundtables, at least I think, if I remember correctly, about how love was an instinct.
Going in for the kill, Nese?
Right. I was interested in the same words.
Can you expand on that?
Well, playing chess. When you're playing chess.
Yeah.
And, you're waiting for your opening to get the king.
You're playing as the white pieces, Nese.
No, I'm the purple. I'm the purple pieces.
Purple pieces.
Nese, there's no purple pieces on the board. Oh my goodness.
They'll be the color that I decide in my head, young lady.
Yeah, I mean, he can make it any color.
Well, where's the pink?
It could be red.
It's checkers for nerds.
Oh my goodness.
So, I have a question.
But then, when... Sorry.
Go ahead.
Be patient. What was your question, sister?
No, I'll just listen. I'm good. I forgot it anyway. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask on that where we're talking about earlier, like Connie was saying, when is being patience, enabling? And so then it makes me think of the full spectrum of when is patience negative and when is patience positive.
I know what my question was. I don't understand neutrality. Nothing for me is neutral. It's either positive or negative.
You don't have anything in between?
No.
Gray would be
I don't know,
the
not
color.
that I can think of, if you want to bring up examples. But to me, things are either positive or they are negative. I don't know what neutrality is. I guess I guess it means indifference. And that's the opposite of love to me. Like just being indifferent. You don't care one way or the other. That's neutrality.
Well, do you have
you
to
could
be
let go of... I was going to say,
Sharon.
you could let go of the outcome. You could be neutral on the outcome. You could have patience and be neutral on the outcome. That it's in your best interest to be
If I've
neutral or to be
If I've
patient?
invested, I'm not going to be neutral. Sorry.
Okay.
But
If I've invested myself.
so from my experience and my finding the understanding within myself, I've come to the conclusion that the universe is in constant battle for neutrality. Where, if you want to call it karma or whatever, there's a constant battle, especially in the electromagnetic framework of things. And when you look at everything in its quantification, it comes down to electromagnetic fields. And electromagnetic fields will struggle, battle, whatever you want to call it, to find neutrality, to be stable. So to what was the word that you said, Connie, that was opposite of love?
Indifference.
Indifference. So if someone being indifferent, does that mean they don't care? For example, like if one partner will be like, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" and the other person's like, "Well, I'm indifferent about it." That doesn't mean they don't care. They just, one way or another, it's
what's for dinner is a very trivial thing as opposed to what I'm referring to, which is right, wrong, or there's neutral.
But right or wrong is from the perspective of the individual. Is it wrong for a man whose family is starving to death that they steal food?
No, I get I see what you're saying, but that still isn't neutral.
But it's finding balance.
That isn't neutral either to me.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
And I'm sure you do.
But it is that challenge, I believe, I feel, of finding that neutrality, because when you add or take from one side or another, you're causing a conflict because you're adding or taking. So finding that neutrality, that balance is extremely difficult and could be put in many different scenarios. Tomatoes.
Can I ask a question here about that? And that is, so going back to tolerance and the other word that means the same thing as tolerance. What was it again? Whatever.
Difference? No. Oh, you were talking about tolerance. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah,
what other word?
If you expand your tolerance, then you can expand your patience. That's the word, patience. Boom.
And I guess I am not complimented. If somebody says I tolerate you, it's like, that's okay. I'll just stay away from you. Who feels good about being tolerated? Seriously.
Well, if you need to be tolerated, then you need to step back and look at yourself.
Well, okay. So you have that partner that has like horrible gingivitis, but you're so in love with them. You're going to tolerate that gingivitis.
No, you're not.
Because you love them.
No, you're not. No, I disagree. I 110% disagree. You're not going to tolerate that. You're going to help them fix it.
Well, hopefully you will help them fix it. But you're still going to tolerate it.
Tolerate them to be unreceptive to your help to a certain point, and then you're not going to tolerate it anymore, and your patience is going to.
I'll tell you something.
It's just below that level, Polly.
When people come to me and ask me about,
there's no height level of any of it. There's no high or low. To me, at least, this is just rudimental patience and tolerance.
Polly, if you would shower more frequently, we would spend more time together.
You could have more tolerance if you had more patience, and you could also have more patience if you had more tolerance.
But they're
It depends what bothers you. What I've noticed about Jim.
exactly.
Well, that's
Some
what
people-
tolerance is. If
You
you
know,
want
I knew a
someone to
guy
tolerate
that
you, you're manipulating your own tolerance.
I knew a guy that was irritated by nature's sound, crickets, frogs, whatever, you know, that make those sounds in nature. And I remember sitting there one night laughing my head off because the more he listened to these sounds, the more pissed off he's got. And I'm thinking, what's the big deal? You're letting it bother you. If you didn't let it bother you, you probably wouldn't even notice those sounds. But every minute that went by, you got more and more rolled up because the more you could... Because, as you know, when you tune in and listen to something, you hear it more, right? So the more he tuned in, the more he heard every critter outside making a noise. And it was so funny, I've got to tell you.
So
And when it comes to relationships...
Is that
people
patience
say-
or tolerance?
Tolerance. It depends what bothers you. You know,
Well, then
you
I think
tolerate-
it comes back down to your boundaries. If you can't stand listening to the damn ass crickets, that to me is time for you to make a decision.
inside yourself about what's irritating you and why you're getting so rolled up.
Or
over something that's
leave.
different.
Or just if it's
Well,
just
just
so
feel the-
bad, you gotta go.
Well, what about when you have misdirected patients? Where
Like,
you're
for
losing your
instance,
because you're in a
Misdirected
but
you're-
misdirected patience comes down to tolerance.
right.
They're the
Well,
ones-
like you're in one of those days where you're just impatient from work,
Right.
and then you come home from work, and then it seems like every little thing will trigger you
Right.
to lose it.
Right.
That's where I go back to that metaphor about patience being like the oil in your engine. So your tolerance of your gears spinning don't get to an aspect of where something's going to break. And that's the biggest thing about patience, because when you lose it, you lose it. And sometimes once you lose that patience, it's hard to reel that thing back in.
And some people, if they don't have patience to work on, like say they're an unemployed doctor and now they have no patience, they have nobody to help. They have to force themselves into looking into themselves, and now they have to help themselves instead of helping somebody else. And
Right.
their tolerance for that is very low, which is very ironic.
I think that I think patience again goes back to a skill.
for my name because of my patience.
But I mean, I think it comes back to a skill, Nese, and I think we've all been pushed over the cliff by our kids. If we're a parent, we've all been pushed over the cliff. It's their job to push us over the cliff, and then when we go, they look at us and go, "What? What?" They all do that. That's their job. And they're good at it. And if you've got a couple of kids, they tag team on your ass, right? And you have to understand all that. So that's how that goes.
One's the wedge and the other one's the hammer.
Exactly. And it's like
Honestly, I'm not
watching
a
wrestling. It's like watching the wrestling team. Literally, they tag team and you're the guy in the middle of the ring.
Oh, mine do that every single day. Every day.
Of course they
Poke 'em with
do.
the fork and see how
You
soft
watch
they are.
them, and you can, and it's a millisecond of a handoff. I've watched kids do that with their parents. I mean, literally, one of them is leaving the ring, and they tag team the guy. They give him the high five, and that person just rags on the parent until they exhaust the parent, and then the next, you're on my last nerve. All that crap.
Turn it up 425.
Right in front of me, just like, no, mom, this is what I'm gonna do right
425.
now. It's like,
I wouldn't
Exactly.
15 minutes.
Exactly. It is hilarious, and they're good at it.
oh, they are. How do they? It's like this. It's like they know how to do this already. How to push those buttons. How to test that patience in every single day. And I think the thing that I've found is just to, like most moms say, pick your battles with them. Choose what really is important to fight and what isn't, and let them be, and let them do it, and try to not have those buttons for them to push, because they're going to find them. They are going to find them.
So should that progress us along on what modalities do we utilize to hold on to our patients?
Well, that's a very good question. I wonder if
What do you mean by modality?
modalities, things that are tangible,
Different ways, different types.
yeah, things.
Okay.
I wonder if that brings art into the picture or skills. Having the diligence to learn a skill to a
Chocolate.
certain degree.
Coffee.
Yeah. Shush, that was my
Yeah, I was
wine.
thinking about that, Mahliah, because to do dot paintings and dot paintings and beadwork, and fibre art that I do, like you need patience to do those arts and crafts. And I've met people to do this.
Yeah, because to do beadwork, it
You know,
doesn't.
it's like,
I can't get done with a piece of beadwork in a day. It takes weeks, sometimes months, to get done with a project.
So
Oh, you're breaking up.
when if I want to teach someone,
Mahliah's in the
someone
Matrix.
has patience. Yeah, you were breaking up then, Mahliah.
Well, you were breaking up. I was like, wait a minute, is it me? It's me.
No, you.
I jumped into the Matrix. I did it. It's true. Had to fix things a minute. It's happening again, isn't it? Go ahead, guys.
They're all cracked up.
I'm sorry, it's my fault.
I'm sorry.
As an artist, and I think I can understand what you're talking about here is the level of creation from an artist or somebody who's passionate about something that takes a lot of attention and patience and tolerance can come through in people that have a higher tolerance for adversity. So, they'll can't suffer. That's where I'm going with this. And that these artists and people, or whatever you want to call them, people with level of tolerance for adversity, they convert it into a level of patience for focus and are able to create things that people look back on in 100 years and are like, oh my God, that's the best art we've ever had, ever been able to recreate that kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like creating its own way.
I think that my patience is equivalent to the need, my perceived need of the other person. Like when I had clients as a therapist, I didn't even have to try to be patient. I was with them every step of their journey. So it didn't require me to develop patience. But
Well, that's because they were the patient. Sorry.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I just want to say, if you just be patient
No,
on
let
the
Connie
other
finish.
side, we'll see what will happen on the other side. On the other side.
Think about it, though. When you're
Wait. I
feeling
wanted to hear Connie's full thought. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, that was funny, but we need a laugh.
I think I'm done with the thought.
Oh,
Yeah, just with clients, I never had to work up patience. I was with them. Now, someone in their journey, I'm stepping with them. I'm learning as they step sometimes. I learn more than they're learning. But if I see someone as an equal, as a peer, I think I have less patience. I'm just being honest.
cool. I want to pose the question of when you're being patient, no matter what the situation is, what does it feel like? I just jumped into that thought and I feel calm. I feel calm, I feel wise, and in a way I feel strong when I'm being patient.
Yes.
How do you?
Being patient to me is the feeling of hurry up and wait without any anxiety.
Hurry up and wait.
I get that, Polly. I had to keep telling myself when we were in Tampa, everything's broken. And as long as I said that to myself, I didn't lose patience because I didn't have any expectations. Expectations are premeditated resentments. I love that saying.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait because everything's broken. So whether you drop that call and go to another business, it's going to be the same thing. Might as well just be patient and wait on the phone call you're at.
Exactly. Hurry up and wait is just a request for patience.
Right. Exactly. But if you expect that, you've already...
I'm in no hurry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm done. I'm going to...
Somebody said attitude or alluded to attitude regarding patience. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
You said it's an attitude. Is that the word you just used? Right?
I did. I don't remember if. Yeah, I'm waking up, but I'm awake. It's just Anyway.
Yeah.
Regarding patience.
Right.
Your patience can be determined by attitude, just like Connie was talking about.
Yes.
She's going in with the attitude, this is not an equal. I have a job to do. Okay, I mean, I'm talking for Connie, and I don't mean it that way, but this is how I'm interpreting for her.
It's all good, Beth.
Okay. Hey, girl.
Hey.
And we could go into a situation with knowledge and a heart set that this is not a peer. This is my job, and I mean, there's all kinds of attitudes with patience for me. There are things that I have absolutely no patience for. And years ago, Luna was talking about artwork. People would look at my work and go, oh my gosh, you have so much patience. I had patience for that because I had a gifting from God. But as far as patience for 8 little kids, like my daughter-in-law up the street, I just wanted to say that because I think it has a place, and I'll hush.
Thank you, Bet. I appreciate what you just said. I'm really thinking about what you just said.
Oh, and that peer thing, about it being a peer and the patience. Yeah. I don't know if we could strictly talk about patience in and of itself because it's linked. I don't know. I can't prove this. It's just, I'm opening up my mouth and who knows, garbage can come out. But anyway, I lost my thought. I think I need some PPP. I'm going to hush.
Well, I never thought that when I brought up patience that it would have such an interesting discussion. And how people react to patience is interesting. And what it contains, like what I've noticed about these roundtable discussions is each word that we present every week actually contains other words, like tolerance for patience, perseverance. Like, it's very interesting. Keep going, everyone. I feel like I'm a shrink sitting in my office. Sorry.
You are a sort of shrink.
It's cool.
No, seriously, because of your perceptions and the way that you perceive things, I don't think it requires a damn degree to have instincts or to trust your gut or it's all just another lie of the whole medical mechanism. That it's
just
some
requires patience.
secret knowledge that nobody else can have. And I used to, for my clients, if they wanted me to run off from the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual that we all had to use for insurance purposes, I would run off the exact definition, what things you needed to present in order to be diagnosed with that. I would give them any information and all information that would empower them themselves. My goal was to no longer have them as a client. They didn't need me anymore.
Metaphorically and literally, Luna, you are a shrink, especially as you get older and that vertical challenge increases.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. I'm just observing. So,
But it is interesting about what Connie brings up there with the DSM.
Yes.
You know, a book that I think it's like, I don't know, isn't it like DSM 7 now? You know, but it's strange in itself where somebody needs that label, where they're like, please label me as something, whether it be ADHD or ADD or this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, I noticed that. Why is that? What do I want to say before we go on?
Patients.
Why do doctors call them patients? It's because we need to have patience with the bloody doctors. That's what I reckon.
And that's because they're still practicing. Get it? They're practicing.
Yes.
Exactly. They're still
Serious.
there. Practice,
Exactly.
and with them. Yeah. But you're right, Connie. You don't need a book to tell you what's right and wrong and whether someone's suffering and how they're suffering. And if you see how they can stop that suffering, you can offer assistance. I think they write the book because they don't know what the fuck's going on. Oh, sorry. They don't know what's going on because they're practicing and we need to be patient with them.
I think how labels help, I think there is a place for labeling. And what it helps, instead of going through a lot of speech, we would say they're a cutter. And that was inside the practice. Okay, and that just said they have self-destructive tendencies. They are cutting themselves to release something. Okay, so it's a real short way of, they're chronically depressed. Okay, I know what that means. I know what that looks like. I know what the symptoms are. So that's where labels can help. But they can also be so much more hurtful than helpful when we're so quick to just slap a label on someone because the bigger beast, like insurance companies, require that after your first visit, you have to diagnose. So I would just diagnose as something like adjustment disorder, chronic. We all fit under that. They're having difficulty chronically of adjusting to something that's going on in their life. Okay. So really the DSM has enough shit in it that we can pick anybody off the street and they'll fit under something.
Right.
So that's the negative part of it.
There's a really good documentary out there called Psychiatry Industry of Death. And it goes in there and it kind of looks at the history of psychiatry, and then it gets into the psychiatry and how it has assisted the medical industrial complex because of the whole thing of prescribing medications. So it is sad, in that aspect of it, especially when people are going into this business of that to help people. And then you get caught up in the whole insurance aspect of it.
So then I wrote a letter of resignation that stated the very institutions that are set up to be of service to people end up the people serve the institution. And that's what happens. It starts out pure and the heart is right. and then it all ends up money and fitting into a system. Everywhere I've ever been, whether community mental health or private, it's really to our advantage to keep someone a client.
Return
Keep
customers.
them coming back.
Yeah.
That's really anti-healing.
Yeah, in our practice, what me and Carl do, we say to people, we don't want you to keep coming back and giving us money to see us. We want you to learn the tools to be strong and hopefully never see you again because you've got your life in order and spiritually you know what's going on. What I want to add to that, even though it's got nothing to do with patients, only the fact that we go to see a doctor, is traditionally in our culture, we don't believe in mental health. It's a spiritual or an emotional problem. And when our healers look at a person, we look at the energy and coming out of the person, the energy on the person, and the energy of their physical health. And we assess from that what's going on. Is there an outside energy, spirit or whatever that is pushing on this person, or is it something they've gone through and they need to release those so-called demons, even though we don't call them demons, but you can imagine the dark energy coming out of them, and we help them release that, which makes them better. We also have certain food that makes you feel better. So if someone's feeling depressed, we can go and give them certain food and they'll feel better. But it's natural. It's not medicine as in doctor medicine. It's just food. And as we know, like even when you eat chocolate, you feel better. But
But that's where medications came from. They came from these ancient peoples and their mixtures of herbs and whatnot.
But the thing,
and then
the thing that medicine does is it rips apart whatever the thing is that's healing and only takes one thing out of it and forgets that nature relies on a symphony and a harmony of many things to do what it does. And by taking that one thing out of it, you're not getting the overall health balance.
Well, to an extent, I agree, because my people, my ancestors, they'll say like, okay, you can only use the leaf of this plant, or you can only use the root of this plant. If you use any other part of the plant, you potentially could kill somebody, but
what
in today,
modern medicine take it apart, that root, say that's the leaf, they'll take the molecule in the leaf or whatever that is the active ingredient and then bottle that, forgetting that the whole leaf is part of the healing thing.
Well, this is where it goes into the whole thing of making money out of it, because you can't patent a plant of it. Because the more times than not, the process of creating the derivative of that plant, that specific particulate that assists in the healing or you make the money off of it.
You can't buy patients,
right? Well,
so you've got to get them hooked.
Patient cured is a customer lost.
They get it because it's about patience of virtue. You can't buy patients,
right?
But you can get addicted.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
In the comedy world, Luna, if you have to explain the joke, then you take away from the joke.
Oh, I know. I'm not. Well, actually, this world is a comedy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm off key today.
Yeah.
Comedy and tragedy.
Oh,
So,
Jules just said it. Pharmakia. Jules just said it. Pharmakia. Pharmacia.
So we need to have patience with all them fellas until they figure out the right way of healing. So what makes a patient person? What makes us look at someone and go, oh, look at them, they're really patient? After everything we've discussed about how emotions and different situations, where to apply patience and negative and positive patience, the fine line, the grey area that the dictionary doesn't tell you about when you enact in real life these words.
Yeah, the manual, just something's different in the translation, isn't it, Luna?
It is. So what is it that makes us look at someone and say, gee, they're a patient person. Obviously, something stands out more than everything we've talked to be able to say that about somebody.
Well, I got something on that. One of my biggest problems is shutting my mouth. When I shut my mouth, I'm cutting off my internal thing and saying, I'm going to listen to this person. I personally, with help from God, in my spiritual walk, it helps me.
Ironically, I was going to say the same thing, but I shut my mouth.
You're just a better man than me, Polly. But I still love
Ma'am.
you.
I thought that was funny.
Ma'am. Sure.
I don't care about being better. I just thought that was. I haven't said anything in a while. I just thought that was funny.
Polly? I was being silly. Sorry.
There you go thinking again.
No, it's me not thinking about what I'm going to say, and then trash comes out my mouth.
I was testing patience. Come on.
Sharon actually sparked something there. What about some other words to explain patience, like grace and respect?
Grace.
You know,
grace.
They're graceful.
Or peace in a situation, grace or peace. Like, peaceful. I think, like you know, sometimes there can be a big storm in the middle of, you know, people standing around, or their perception of things happening all around you. But you have some certain individuals that may look, at least they stand in grace or peace within themselves. And you can also interpret that as patience, or someone who's not reacting. And it could come down to something as simple as it's not bothering them. It comes back to the crickets. Well, in this situation, this person isn't bothered by the situation, but maybe for you, it's a challenge, right? So you can look at that person and think, wow, they're so patient.
Or they could just be gifted. On the other spectrum, those individuals that are purposely trying to push your patience.
I never wait long enough.
What do you mean? What do you do?
That was good, Polly.
You mean you just take off, Polly? Is that what you mean?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No. I was just being silly, to be honest.
Oh.
I was.
Oh,
really
okay.
I loved it.
Silly.
It was great.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
If I'm testing your patience right now, I'm incredibly sorry.
No.
Catching the jokes. Aussies are like that. We'll do talking about something real serious, and then we'll just chuck a joke just to like.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I had to do it.
Yeah. So
but what is being sorry?
I love that baby. Is that the experience? Connie, I love that baby. Sorry. All right, go ahead, Nese.
I feel sorry for that baby.
Sorry.
I
feel grateful that baby didn't stub his toe on the way out, because he was really close.
I wanted what made the baby turn around. Like, what could possibly be in the room that the baby turned around? Anyway, so I digressed.
You got a point there, Sharon. No one can see this baby.
It's hilarious.
So for those that can't see, it's a little baby running up the hallway on his
toes. Like, whoa!
And he gets to the end of the hallway and he goes, ooh, and pulls that, ooh, face, turns around and takes back off up the hallway again. What is it that baby says?
I don't know, something though.
He was just making sure his mom was still filming.
Or it could be Polly's little spiritual fairy folks out there, and he's like, whoa!
Sorry, I'm pulling a Donny here in the background.
Well, I'm exercising my patience for this baby to make a different decision.
So, with patience is a virtue. Now, we've talked about it. What about the virtue side of things?
Well, there's also virtue patience, which I think is a result of the woke whole idea. So it can work in a detrimental way too. But yeah,
so obviously, is that telling us that in this world, to journey this world from the beginning to the end, we need virtues, and it's telling us obviously patience is one of them. But what other is, how come I've never heard someone say truth is a virtue? Or what are some of the other things talked about? I've never heard someone say love is a virtue or wisdom is a virtue. Are they?
Well, actually, in my belief system, love is a virtue. I think it is. Love, joy, peace. Maybe I got my things mixed up.
No, yeah, love never fails. Love is the only thing that's
You're right. Yes.
It's almost as if it's almost as if a level of patience or tolerance sort of almost defines those levels of, I guess, virtue.
Did not
or love?
Mahliah say earlier there were 7 virtues? Is that correct, Mahliah?
Love, joy.
I was looking at 4.
Yes.
There's
7 known virtues.
And 4 are prudence, justice, courage, and temperance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I don't know what the other. Did you say there's 7? So I don't know what the other 3 are. But do you think that the word virtue has been hijacked as well as some of the other words we've talked about on the show?
I believe so.
Or the Roundtable?
Well, it's very Catholic, yes. It's a very Catholic mindset, understanding the 7 virtues. It comes from a biblical verse. Let's see if I can pull it up here again. Like if you search it, you're going to find mostly Catholic material concerning the 7 virtues. However, what I found is that throughout historical records, I'm talking like hieroglyphs and this kind of thing through ancient Egypt, there's this continuance of 7 virtues and 7 deadly sins through oral legends and all kinds of stuff. So the 7 are charity, temperance, chastity, diligence. Of course, it jumped on me, right? Okay.
Patience, kindness, and humility.
Chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, patience, kindness, and humility. Yes.
Can someone quickly pull up a definition of what it says virtue is?
Patience or virtue? The word virtue.
Oh,
I can do an etymology of virtue.
Virtue.
I might be skipping out again. My internet is skippy. Sometimes it works.
It says behaviour showing high moral standards.
Technically, virtue is a moral life and conduct, particular moral excellence. It's of the French word force, strength, vigor, moral strength, qualities, abilities. From Latin virtutum, moral strength, high character, goodness, manliness, valor, bravery, courage in war, excellence, worth, from ver, the man, from pi root viro, or man. So it's specifically masculine in the sense of the very word virtue. We're just looking at the word itself.
So virtue is a display of patience.
Well, no, virtues have 7 virtues, but I don't know if I agree with this because the word virtue is Latin in essence.
Wait.
We could look further back.
Virtue
is a noun.
Is a display of as it relates from the perspective of a man.
Well, it stems from the word vir, V-I-R, which is man. But we also get virologist, virology, virtu, virtual, virtuosity, virtuoso, virulence. Virulence is very masculine when the word virtue.
We do tolerate a lot. Yeah, we do tolerate.
That's interesting.
It is.
So virtue is a moral excellence. A virtue is a trait or quality that is deemed to be morally good and thus valued as a foundation of principle and good moral being. In other words, it's a behavior that shows high moral standards. And that's why I was kind of wondering if this got hijacked, because anything like this, when we talk about moral standards and things like that in society right now, because black is white and white is good, or good is bad, bad is good, and all that. It's almost like, to me, I don't even think of the word virtue, because again, that's another word that seems like it's been hijacked.
Yeah, most people that use the word virtue are really good at
hijacking.
Yeah, because it's like a stat that you upgrade. You upgrade virtue. And
doesn't it sound like the pretendency and his entourage?
Yeah, I was thinking last night, actually, I wish that I spoke a couple of different languages, because I'd like to know what that word was in other languages, because we know that English is a spell and it makes spelling.
Like Jules is saying, Jules is saying the woke and virtue signaling. There you go. Thank you, Jules. That's what I was trying to think. Virtue signaling. So again, the word has been hijacked. And I was raised a Catholic, so when I was raised a Catholic, virtue being a virtuous young lady, being someone like chaste, right, and without sin, and it was back in the day when you didn't do stuff. You never did stuff. You were behaving and all that. So chastity, charity, patience, kindness, humility, all that stuff. Now this virtue signaling, it's like now I don't even think to use that word, because the people who are using are woke.
Can I say, what is virtue signaling?
What is it?
Yeah, and woke, what does that mean? Is that the stupid people? Sorry, I know you don't like that word, Nese.
Yes. Go ahead.
Right. And the virtue signaling to me is that they come out and it's holier than thou. Like right now, this is the meme that is going around here, that the people who have done the jib jab, they have taken one for the team. They're pulling the country forward, blah, 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 blah. And then the people who haven't, they're holding everybody up and blah, 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 blah. So just name the subject that they're trying. Name the mind control. There you go. Up is down and down is good, Connie. You're exactly right. So anything that's mind control, Luna, now it's packaged in virtue signaling.
Well, get it,
right? If you wear a mask, you're a good person.
Virtue signaling is manufactured tolerance.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, exactly.
Well, I like that.
I like that.
So I'd be correct in saying,
okay.
I have no patience in that area.
Okay. So,
me neither, Luna.
Feminists would say, "My body, my choice."
Can I give you virtue signaling is the public expression of opinions or sentiments intended to demonstrate one's good character or social conscience, or the moral correctness of one's position on a particular issue. So virtue signaling is basically like this, communicating, like some of our UFO weirdos out there that are communicating to people, oh, I'm so good, and they're crying in front of the screen, and they're showing their emotions, and they're just super amplified. That's basically what virtue signaling is in this crowd of the woke people. And it seems like these woke people who are in this group of running after every agenda, running after every little, they're wavering. I see them in the spirit as like trees that waver back and forth. They have no strength of themselves. And so they're running after everything and anything that explain it to them. So yeah, I got a baby crying in the background. That takes patience to talk through that.
Yes, it does. It sure does.
But
yeah, give yourself a stroke.
Right?
A pet. You bet, honey.
Someone
you bet.
else is in the nursing station right now. That's the mindset, that's being able to partition your mind and just say, okay, someone else is in the place right now of doing that job, and letting things be in a place of, well, that's where patience really is, the bottom line. Let it be. Let it rain. I love that saying.
Okay.
Just let it rain, right?
So what I've heard up to now is we've applied patience to all these external things. What about when we have to apply patience to ourself growing in this world like a little child that we have to nurture and grow to a strong tree? How do we go about looking at ourselves and going, I'll just be patient with myself?
Well, I know if I'm hard on myself, I'm going to be hard on you, meaning you, the other person, anybody. The more patient I am with myself, the more patience I have with other people. And I'll hush.
I don't want to be patient.
You have a choice, Nese. I didn't hush. See? The mouth.
No, I say that jokingly because I have less patience for myself than I do for other people.
Well, I've learned if I want to be in the same room as myself for long extended periods of time, I had to learn to be patient with myself.
Amen, Luna. That's
I used
good.
to say to my mom, I can't wait. And she used to say, well, you're going to have to.
I'm sorry, Polly. I missed the first part.
My mom used to say, or I used to say to my mom, I can't wait. And she would always say to me, well, you're going to have to.
Yeah. Yep.
I found nature teaches you patience. Like when you grow food, you got to wait. You can't.
Okay, well, here's the question. Does excitement accentuate the tolerance of patience?
Yeah,
Well,
if you're waiting for those oranges to pop off the tree, you get excited when they're all big and juicy.
my experience in the Navy sitting next to a TTY-8 printer that just sat there for 12 hours sitting there listening to clackety 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 clack clack clackety clackety clack for 12 hours straight. That taught me a lot of patience.
Yeah, would have.
Because it was, those annoyances, being able to tolerate the annoyances without losing the patience. And just like with children where they're like, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? Or they're like, and one of my keys that I did with my kids, they'd be like, Dad, can I have $10? And I'll give you $5. And they're like, how about 9? And I said, $4. How about 7? $3. And then they'll say, okay, we'll take 5.
I used to do the same thing.
Another thing, too, is patience can be quantified by how long you've been alive. Because if you have to wait a year for something when you're 6, and then you have to wait a year for something when you're 60, it's a huge amount of patience difference.
It's true.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that practice or wisdom?
I think it's old age.
I don't think there's anything over a year that
I
I'm
wait for everything.
Sorry, hey, Bernays.
What we saying, Bernays?
I said I don't think I wait anything for a year at this age anymore. There's nothing that you expect to come over a year anymore, Polly.
Actually,
If you're older, you may not want to wait too long because you know how precious time is. Sometimes waiting is not a good idea. In other words, you don't know. I think the older you get, sometimes patience is not in your favor. You're going to want to act on something because you know how fast time goes and how.
Isn't that interesting how we kind of we reverse? Like when we're a child and we have no patience, and then as we get older, we learn the patience, and then we get older, and then we become like a child again, where we have no patience.
Bingo.
Well, we might have a little bit more discernment, but also we feel like we know how short time is, and how fast things can change. We don't want to miss opportunities, right? So
eventually, we'll make great pets.
Yes, we will.
But if you're speaking of things on a calendar on a yearly basis, you're only speaking of a rotating thing. And as you get older, maybe you realize that you're not so excited by things that are possibly made up and instituted to make you buy things.
Right.
How much do you think expectation has on patients? Because a lot of the time people have been patients waiting for something and their expectation.
That's a really good question, Luna.
It definitely will
I would say it
affect the
has
patients.
a lot to do with
That's
it.
huge.
Yeah.
This is huge. Patience. I'm sorry. Fill in the other word. I'm a little
tolerance.
Expectation.
Expectation. Expectations is such a wow. The more expectations I have, the more disappointments I have. So if I don't expect, I can be in anticipation, but it's not a place to stay. As far as expectations, okay, I expect you to behave, and no one's going to curse, and this is what I expect out of this roundtable. Nobody's going to curse, nobody's going to make it. Well, the more expectations I come up with, the more disappointed I'm going to be, and the less patience I'm probably going to have for anything at all.
Well, in the words of the Heinz family and their ketchup, anticipations, it's making me wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember the ketchup? Yep, wouldn't come out of the bottle.
We know Heinz. We don't know Heinz for sauce. We know Heinz for Heinz baked beans, 57 varieties or something.
Oh, yes.
Heinz 57. Yeah.
Well, I think we have two big ketchups, right? Don't we have Heinz and Hunt's? Don't we have Hunt's and Heinz? I don't use ketchup, but if you do, I think you have two big ones you can choose from. John Kerry, Heinz.
Yeah, patience and expectation. Yeah, if your patience is based on expectation, I think you need to check it because you might get disappointed.
Right.
Or if your patience is built on Amazon.
Amazon sucks.
Well, I think our society has another thing. Our society has done is screwed up expectations, and that we have this expectation that everything's going to happen fast, and we're going to have instant gratification, and blah, 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 blah. And I think that hasn't helped people either. And I think people lose their patience a lot with all of the situation. And also, I think the other thing is anxiety. The other thing out there, if you have a lot of anxiety in society, everybody's losing their patience. Everybody's freaking out, right? And it's contagious.
Of their expectations that things are still working as they used to.
Right.
And if I tell myself everything's broken, I have no expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't help my patience any, but still.
I just saw how, as a populace, we got tricked out of patience.
Right.
Because in the old days, everyone had veggies and that in their backyard, so all the children knew, watch the food being grown, be patient, and that night then you might be eating the carrots that I put in. Yay! Now everything's so convenient. We're not taught patience on those levels anymore because you just go to the shop and buy it.
Even when you look at the experiences with computers, when you go to download software and they give you that little timing number and this is only going to take 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes goes by and then it's like, this is only going to take 15 minutes, no 7 minutes, no 10 minutes, well 6 minutes, so it kept skewing the time factor of things. And so I think we've been conditioned to be less patient.
Exactly. I want instant now. Give me it to me now. Cook my food in the microwave. I want it now. Go to the shop and buy that piece of clothing. I want it now. Order that stuff. I want it now. If it's not arrived in 2 days, I'm going to complain. I expect to go up the shop and get everything I want right now.
And exactly the way you want it too. Not just the timing, but the way you expect it to be.
So they've trained us out of patience, and they've trained us out of a virtue, virtually.
Yes.
So patience is directly related to time, and tolerance is directly related to time under certain circumstances.
Oh, the Wells Fargo wagon is coming down the street. Oh, please let it be for me.
She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes.
Exactly.
Well,
All right, you're
the
getting
milk back
Mahliah
in
in
the
here to
day.
sing.
Brown.
That's her favorite
Back in the
song.
day, you would order something, and then it would just be like, all right, eventually it's going to come, But now you get Amazon Prime, and they're like overnight, and overnight has not become overnight anymore. Overnight has become 72 hours. What about when you talk to these younger kids and they're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a minute. And it might have been like 5-6 years. But they'll say, I haven't seen you in a minute.
All right.
Sometimes there's a hot minute.
You're looking at intuition, right? Because I'm looking at from a tribal point of view. Someone's coming and I got the instinct to go and sit down and wait for them. And I'll sit there not knowing why I'm sitting there half the time, but I'll have a patience enough just to sit there and enjoy sitting there. And then all of a sudden that person turns up and it's like, oh, that's why I'm sitting here. How you going? They've taken that away from us, and I can see how it's infringed on our intuition because we haven't got patience. To have intuition, you need patience. To sit there and not know why you're there or why you're doing what you're doing to wait for the outcome. They've taken that away as well because they even want you to estimate what you're going to do next. How much money are you going to earn? Where will you be? What job will you be doing? How much of this will you think you'll be doing? They've taken it away. And what I'm seeing in this conversation is how someone sat back. I hope I'm wrong. Someone sat back and looked at all this and gone, how can we stuff up all these people? Will take their patience away, which will affect their intuition, which will affect their virtues in life. Can you see the pattern that I'm putting here?
Inch by inch.
Yeah. When's it okay to not be impatient?
When your boundaries are being slammed and you need to take a stand.
Or a step back.
Yeah, or step back. But that's the same. But that's the same thing because if you're going to step back, there's something telling you to step back. Again, that probably comes down. That comes down to your boundaries. It's like, okay, that's it. That that sort of feeling inside yourself. Okay, that's it. Damn it, I've had enough.
But then I have this ridiculous inner belief, and I know it's there, but nonetheless, I must be reasonable. Where I learned this and why it is still in me, I don't know. But
you're a woman.
It's a must.
I think women and girls, I think females have been taught to be a little bit more reasonable and more patient. I really think we kind of got that.
Reasonable.
Yeah, we did. We got taught that. I do. I think that.
And
I
I
think
have put up with atrocities in the
Right.
name of being reasonable.
I won't put up for
Right.
this sexism.
Right. Well, I think
Sorry.
we got taught back in the, it depends on your time zone, but, smile and be nice and
Be
and
nice.
be cordial. And if you ever
I
saw that
agree.
series Mad Men, it gives you a really good idea
Oh,
of
yeah.
what women
There's a
put
I
up
love
with
Mad Men.
in that
There's a
time
reason
zone.
why grandmothers are more important in family structure than grandfathers.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you, Sharon. I'm just teasing out there and stuff. But I mean, I think that it comes with, as I say many times, the full spectrum. Where men and women have the same characteristics, but sometimes generalizing, women will have more of one thing and men will have more of another.
They have more patience.
Well, I don't know if I quite caught everything you said, Sharon. I think it was some about what women have put up with
Yes.
over the
Yeah.
years.
Right.
Okay, I would just like to balance that out, and it's not in contradiction to what you said, but I think there is so much emphasis put on the woman today that it has actually crippled females. But even just as important as that, I mean, it's all important, is that the way males have been portrayed and
It's
taken
crippled.
out of their role, traditional, and I don't mean as role, I mean if war comes, what I have studied, what I have found out is men and women go back to basic chores. The men do the hunting, they go out at night, they do most of that. The women do the caretaking, schooling of the kids, the cooking and the cleaning. It's by way of necessity. So I don't know. I don't know if that applies here. I just thought I'd throw it out there because I just think men get
I think
a bad rap.
I think you might find the world's changed a little bit because there's you'll have both now because there's men out there that don't know how to do them things, and there's women that do. And I reckon now this world, if that happened, you'd have men and women together doing it. You'd have some men and women cooking, and some men and women hunting.
More women are better
That's a
hunting at
good
the
point.
supermarket than men are.
I think that there's
Absolutely, Nese.
I think that there's been a lot of crippling of society. I think there's a lot of go back to gender fluidity or whatever all that crap is. I mean, everything is, again, black is white, good is bad, and everyone's confused, and we've confused the guys, and the women are confused, and the women, I mean, now in American colleges, there's more women than men, and at one point in time, that wasn't true. And so we've got that shifted. Again, we're being brainwashed and manipulated. And it would be really interesting if they just left us the holy hell alone. Everything would sort of sift back into a way where people were comfortable. I'm not saying which way that would go at this point, but, I think I just think that we are being manipulated.
Hugely.
What I took from that is pretty much just natural law that the man is going to do most of the certain items and women will do the others because we both have it inside ourselves for the male female thought process, but we're genetically built different. And that's the thing about the mind. Inside the mind, we can have both sides, but we are built different on the outside. So that's where the argument of man, woman, male, female, all it kind of shows up, and then genetically it does show up at the end. Whatever sex you want to have or whoever you want to love is up to you, and it's great to me. when you change the words, when you change everything that mankind is known for, well, they say 2,000 years, and now they're going to just institute something new, somebody's blowing a lot of smoke at us, and it's not the type I enjoy.
Well, this is one of the things that I so much appreciate my ancestry, because we didn't have a labeling or a difference of the men and women. So an example is the word bimibatu. It means he or she runs. And the only way that you know, the gender of the individual within the sentence is whether it's by the individual's name, or they'll say ikwe or inini. Because there wasn't this mass hierarchy, or no, what's it, matriarchal or patriarchal. Men and women were held in the same regards and could practically hold any position as leader of the entirety of the community.
Oh, sorry about that. We're having a few technical problems and we can't understand what's going on. All right, so I reckon
need to know.
We'll round this talk up about patience is virtue, and then we can carry on talking about some other things. So it's been a pretty deep conversation as far as patience and virtues go. It's helped me to understand how it works better, and where it works and where it doesn't work, and where it becomes grey and where it becomes emotional. And I watched it stretch out and change all these things. It doesn't have faces as such, like other words that we've talked about. It's more of where it's placed rather than having a different face. Patience is patience, and it depends where you place it to how it changes. That's how I have observed the conversation. So I'll just ask you what you have observed through this conversation and what you think about patience and virtue now. And and then we'll wrap it up for this week's topic. So whoever wants to go first, what do you reckon?
Well, I'll just go back to what I shared.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Nese.
Well, I was just going to go back to when I jumped into the conversation. Again, sorry I was running late, but, tolerance is that ability to denote where the stress of something is occurring. And patience is the oil to assist in that tolerance, so that the loss of patience doesn't turn into a negative situation. So be the viscosity of your own world. Be the water, not the rock.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that the sound, the phonetics of the words, tolerance, patience, they rhyme. Anything that ends with the word ends, which you could also put going back toward our previous conversations of other words, and that word is sense. It's tolerance is almost like one of those senses that works in the opposite way, in the similar way that love does. It's something that's projected outwards and not something that comes from within. It's something that's projected out from there. And it's weird that all those words have this ends kind of rhyming sound.
That's why it's called spelling.
Yeah.
Spell. It's a song. There's a real spell. Yeah. Is a song, and it has a rhyming kind of sound.
The word universe to me means one song.
Yeah.
Be
Wow, Polly, you always do
patient.
it.
That's what I would end
Okay.
up saying. My last words for this is just be patient.
Okay, I got something. I got something. Okay, so I'm going to read something here that I found that I liked about patience that kind of sums it up. And it says, I think the question is patience a virtue? So the person says, I think it's a very curious question. When does an activity become a waste of time? And what exactly is worth the wait? For patience to become a critical factor in a situation, first there needs to be a goal or pause that requires a sense of work, determination, or restraint, in comparison to a choice that would allow a decompressed sense of leaving it alone or giving up. So let's take a wild example of a question. Is love worth waiting for? Well, if this is our question, then we are putting on pause the continuation of active relationships with the people we know as friends or acquaintances because the one for me hasn't arrived yet. In this situation, is patience a virtue? What if the romantic relationship you end up in is mediocre at best because there was a sense of desperation at the end of being single for so long? What if the relationship you end up in turns out to be with an old friend you just never tried to get romantic with because the idea of it made you too nervous? What if you really do meet someone totally new that somehow knows exactly how to make you feel good in a relationship? Remember, patience implies a goal. So the only way to feel the need to be patient for love is to want it, or feel a lack of it, or a particular aspect of it. So if you're feeling loved in general, you may not feel any need to wait. Sometimes patience is worth it. Other times, disappointment is the only thing met on the other end. So this is why the game of life is the best. I thought that was really, really interesting just because it does kind of bring up a lot of questions about what we were talking about before with Polly. Where does the line end? When do we say, okay, enough is enough? Let's not have patience anymore in this issue, or let's continue patience in this issue. I probably extended the talk.
No, but it was a good example. Thank you, Mahliah.
Go ahead.
Got a lot to think about. I think we've got full heads now. We've got a lot to think about these words. Anyone else want to round it up before we go? Jules, Connie, Bet, Joe?
One thing that I think was interesting, and I hadn't thought about it till you brought up the word virtue, is that, again, it's another word that's been hijacked. And that's really sad, because I think it was a good word. And, the more we do these roundtables, the more I realize how more words are being hijacked, and that I'm choosing not to use them anymore. And I'm choosing not to think about them. Because once it goes into the woke box, then I just remove it from my vocabulary. Patience to me is a skill set. It takes a tremendous amount of effort on my part. I'm always practicing it, and I'm always conscious of when I'm practicing it. So that's kind of my thing.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, anyone else? No? Well, I just want to thank everybody for
Thank
coming
you,
today
Luna.
and listening and participating. Thank you, Connie. As every week, and thank you, Crowder, for making this all possible.
Thanks, Luna.
Okay. And I'm being short for words today because I'm still thinking about what everyone said, so I'll make this short. Till next week when we come back together and fill our table. Love to you on this day, and Yalu. So, okay, Yalu. See ya.